Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us again today. As of 2 p.m. today, there have been 7,835 positive cases of COVID-19, including 337 deaths. Over 83,000 Missourians have been tested at this time. Before I go into my remarks today, I would like to make a declaration. I would like to declare Sunday, May the 3rd, as a day of prayer for our entire state. So I would appreciate everybody if they would take the time to pray for our state, to pray for each other as we reopen the state of Missouri. As you know, Phase 1 of our Show Me Recovery Plan will take effect on Monday, and we will reopen the state. And I again want to assure Missourians that we are prepared. Throughout this week, we have talked about the 4 essential pillars of our recovery plan. We have talked about hospital capacity, which has decreased across the state with the exception of St. Louis, and our healthcare system is not overwhelmed. We have talked about testing capacity, which we have significantly expanded. We have talked about PPE, and we will continue to receive and ship PPE across the state each day. In all, we have ordered almost $40 million worth of PPE and have already shipped almost 2 million pieces of PPE to our local partners, including almost 300,000 N95 respiratory masks, 450,000 face shields, and 200,000 surgical masks. We have talked about the data, and our data shows that the number of new positive cases have decreased steadily for Missouri overall. Especially promising is the decline of cases in rural counties where we have also had concerns over hotspots. The overall trends show that we have met the 4 pillars and that we are ready to safely open Missouri. As Monday approaches, I know many people are excited, but I want to remind everyone that this is not the flip of a switch. The coronavirus is not gone, and we must continue to be proactive and maintain social distancing to protect not only ourselves, but everyone around us. That said, we encourage Missourians to safely re-engage in the economy. Now more than ever, our Missouri businesses need our support. And it is important to remember to buy Missouri and support your local businesses. I know that a lot of people have shopped online since the coronavirus has taken place. But if there's ever a time in our history and of our state, now is the time that we need to make the special effort to make sure and do business with our local businesses across the state of Missouri. It is critical to get our economy going, and it is so important for us to support one another in this state. Today, I have Director Chen with the Department of Agriculture here. I also have Commissioner Steelman with the Office of Administration here to give some updates today. Also, Director Karsten is here, and Director Williams is also here to answer your questions. But first, I'm going to start with Director Chen to give us a little update on the agriculture. Director?
Thank you, Governor Parson. I want to share some updates on our department's effort to keep our food supply moving. And truthfully, it's not just our department's effort, but it's the efforts of all of those across the food supply chain. Our agriculture organizations, our grocery stores, our food processors, our food banks, and of course, our farmers and ranchers. Every part of our food supply has been pressure tested since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Agriculture production is often impacted by natural disasters like the 2018 drought and the 2019 flood. But these events rarely impact food choice. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, consumers have seen little impact in the grocery store because of our sophisticated food system. As farmers and ranchers, we take a lot of pride in raising food that will one day end up on your family's table. COVID-19 has presented tremendous market disruptions across all sectors of the economy, and the food supply chain is not immune. Our food supply is designed to provide fresh food for your table. That transition from farm to fork is very quick. Much of the food supply depends on a just-in-time delivery system. For some agriculture products, we are experiencing bottlenecks with processing raw farm products into the items that you see in the grocery store. A lot of work goes into bottling milk or preparing a package of steaks or pork chops. As food processing businesses slow down production or sometimes close due to COVID-19, there will inevitably be market disruptions, and those impacts are often first felt on the farm. When farmers have trouble getting that product to our consumers for any reason, it's very hard on them. In the last several weeks, we know consumers have seen information online and in the news that we would like to address. You've seen a lot about milk dumping. Due to a rapidly changing demand, seasonal oversupply, and processing bottlenecks, some farmers had to dump milk before it could be processed. As of early April, Missouri farmers were no longer dumping their milk. You may have also heard about food shortages. We don't expect widespread food shortages at this time. However, you may see localized shortages of certain protein cuts or increased prices for some items. I'd like to directly address the importance of our protein processing plants throughout the United States. In March, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security listed food and agriculture as critical infrastructure. On Wednesday, the President invoked the Defense Production Act to compel processors to remain open. Together, these actions show that providing food for our families is a critical need. Recently, the public information surrounding our meat processors has been negative. As a farmer myself, there are a few things that I want consumers to understand about these processors and their team members that work with them. 1, they are proactive members of our local communities. Their workers and their leadership live and work in the same communities that we live in. Oftentimes, these processors are engaged in community service projects that help with the efforts of COVID-19. 2, we at the Department of Agriculture have been in constant communication with our protein processors throughout this entire pandemic. They have been working to protect their teams by using social distancing measures where possible. They've been screening their employees for symptoms of illnesses. They've staggered start times. They've staggered break times. Their number one priority has always been to care for their team and to protect them. As a cabinet, we've helped them find face coverings and implemented comprehensive testing in their plants. 3, protein processors are modern, high-tech facilities that are highly regulated for cleaning and sanitation. 4, these team members who process our protein are highly skilled. They have very important technical roles in keeping all of our families fed. And 5, there are protein processors of all sizes, from major companies all the way down to small mom-and-pop businesses in the state of Missouri. They all matter. They mattered before COVID-19, and they matter today. Keeping our processors operating safely is a matter of national and statewide importance. These facilities and the safety of their teams will be a focus for my team. It's crucial for our farmers and ranchers, it's crucial for our economy, and it's crucial for your families as well. The comprehensive testing that's happening at Triumph Foods is positive news, and it aligns with the governor's Show Me Recovery plan. Thanks to this plan, we have expanded testing capacity, and we are identifying team members that aren't showing symptoms but who test positive for the virus so they can isolate in line with CDC guidelines. If you see a team member in your community who works at one of these processing facilities, no matter if they're large or small, I encourage you to thank them. They have been on the front lines of this COVID-19 pandemic. They are the unsung heroes. They are ensuring that the food that our farmers in the state of Missouri raise will reach your table. These men and women play an important role in our nation's food security, just as our farmers and ranchers do. And finally, I'd like to speak directly to our farmers and ranchers. I know the pride that you take in your work, and the past few weeks have not been easy, especially if you have livestock that's ready to go to market. Agriculture is used to facing challenges. The challenges brought on by COVID-19 has impacted agriculture in very unpredictable ways. I know firsthand what life on the farm has been like for all of you for the last 6 weeks. The decisions that you are making today will shape the future of Missouri agriculture. I know that weighs heavy on you. I know that you go to bed each night hoping that tomorrow will be the day the markets recover, or that tomorrow will be the day that you get to work your land. We will weather this storm together, as we always do in agriculture, as one team. And we will continue to support each other and our rural communities, because that's what we do in agriculture. Thank you.
Chris, thank you, and thank you for what you're doing for the Department of Agriculture. I also just want to thank, today I want to thank all the farmers, the ranchers, producers in the state of Missouri for the job they do every day. While, yes, some of us were under a stay-at-home order, those farmers every day went out to those fields, they planted those crops, they took care of their livestock, and they do what they do every day on a farm to make sure tomorrow and the next month and the next year we're going to be able to buy groceries for our families and to have food on our tables. And I just want to thank them personally for what they've been doing during this whole virus situation. Also today, Commissioner Steelman is here with us today to give a little update on the state employees and the state situation. So, Sarah.
Thank you, Governor Parson, and thank you, Director Chen, for all that you're doing to protect agriculture. The Show Me Strong recovery for state government means that we will be opening some of our state office buildings to the public. But just to be clear, our state workforce never stopped providing services. When Governor Parson issued his stay-at-home order in March, we took action to get as many employees working remotely as possible. So as of today, 14,930 teammates are working remotely. That is almost 40% of the workforce. And 21,771 are actually physically present at work. That includes our direct care workers, our correction guards, our nurses, our caseworkers, and our maintenance teammates who are located in our institutions throughout the state. Thank you for your service. There are 3,915 team members that cannot report for work or are on administrative leave or unavailable to work for other reasons. We've also been keeping track of how the citizens have been impacted, and I'm pleased to report that we are performing at about 94% of our normal capacity, and that percentage includes just a little measure of the diminished services that have had to be reduced or delayed. So please know that state government has continued to operate. We continue to encourage the public who has business with the state to do so online or by phone or by mail. I am grateful to our workforce for their commitment to public service. Many have worked long hours and weekends for the last 6 weeks to ensure that people are being helped. It is truly remarkable. Beginning Monday, consistent with the governor's Show Me Strong recovery order, we will be reopening major office buildings throughout the state to the public. Each department will be responsible for deciding which offices to open based on their unique circumstances. Major office buildings are defined as 300 or more staff in those buildings. The National Guard has agreed to help us with screening our employees and the public as they come into the buildings. So a big thank you to the Guardsmen for your service and your help. We will be asking our employees the symptom questions, and if they answer yes, then they will be asked to return home and contact their physician. The Guard will be advising the public that if they have any of the symptoms, that they may not enter the building. We will also be social distancing and limiting the number of individuals in the reception areas that are open to the public. We will continue to social distance our employees throughout all of our buildings and to clean and sanitize the workspaces each day. The number of state teammates actually returning to work on Monday is 2,256. Some of the services that will be open in the office buildings include motor vehicle and driver's license, the Bureau of Vital Records, motor vehicle inspection services, and driver's tests are open throughout the state. Department of Social Services continues to provide their assistance online, by phone, and by appointment. Again, a big shout out to all of our great state employees who have worked so hard to serve and help the public during this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for all the work you're doing, and thanks to all the state employees for doing their jobs day in and day out, and for all the people that were there, whether you was in the special needs side of it. Again, like Sarah said, nurses, our correction personnel, our public safety personnel, and on down. I want to thank you all for being at work every day and continuing to support the people of Missouri. In closing today, I know many people are excited for Monday. Others might still be nervous and uneasy. Again, just because we are reopening does not mean things will go back to normal right away. We are on the road to recovery, but we must be proactive and continue taking steps to protect ourselves and others around us. The most important way you can do this is by following the social distance guidelines. Remain 6 feet in distance between yourself and others. Avoid large crowds and gatherings. Practice proper hygiene and stay home if you are sick. We look forward to Monday, so please be safe, be smart, and be responsible. Thank you, and God bless. Kelly, I want to open it up for questions.
Hi, Director. I was just wondering, the USDA said they will be supplying meat processing plants with protective gear for workers, and I know you kind of mentioned that, but is the State Department helping out in any way?
We've been in contact with all of our processors on a weekly basis, sometimes daily, to make sure that their needs are met on that. When they had a challenge trying to source the PPE, we were connecting them to the suppliers that were out there to try and help them make sure that their employees were protected.
Do meat producers or processors in Missouri need some extra money added to the state budget to help them out?
You know, that's a question that really they need to answer, but I do know that their cost of production has increased with all of the extra protections that they put in place for their team members. They've put in a lot of plexiglass, they've increased the sanitation, which was already a very high standard. They've also staggered start and stop times. They've had to purchase a lot of screening equipment as well. So I'm sure that their cost of production has gone up, but I cannot speak directly to how much or what volume that is at.
Just to follow, is that something the department is recommending to the legislature as this goes along or not?
I think you're referring to what happened on the Senate floor today with increased money, and we were just made aware of that a couple hours ago ourselves. So we need to look into that more to find out exactly what the purpose of that is and what we're going to do. And it's still yet to be seen if it's ever going to make it out of conference as well. So we're going to be watching it, trying to learn what we can about it. And if you'd like to follow up with our department later next week, we'd be happy to discuss it more.
Yes. Director Williams, I asked earlier this week about the nursing home transparency. Where can we find that information?
Hopefully it's already up on the website, and what that will consist of, just to be clear, because I did want to follow up with you on that today, is that it will list by county the number of long-term care facilities and prisons and jails that have more than 2 cases in them ongoing. We're prohibited by law to name the facility at the state level, but you will know within those counties, by county, the number of facilities, and then you can follow up with the local health department, and they have different rules and regulations on that than we do as a state. But we very much appreciate your suggestion, and we've looked around the country, and we think that's a reasonable thing to do.
Why the 2 cases? Why that number?
Because that's what we technically consider to be, and that's kind of around the country, an outbreak is 2 cases. That's kind of within the national public health nomenclature.
And what is your department doing to help facilities meet the new federal requirements to inform family about cases among residents?
Yeah, just making sure that, especially with our local health departments, they follow up on that. That is a federal regulation. You know, we regulate those homes through our Department of Regulation and Licensure, so we are making sure that they comply with that. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Williams.
Yes.
What might have caused the positive? There was a little bit of a jump in the cases today. So what do you think might have been the cause of that?
Yeah, you're gracious to ask that. And again, you may have seen the press release we put out today about 12:30. We have 167 more cases in Buchanan County. We tested 916 people on Tuesday and had 167 come back positive. We have, so that accounts, the 92 yesterday, the 167 today are going to bump us up. Now, again, it's one of the problems with looking at that. Those are all asymptomatic patients, so that's a different, really, group than what you normally see in that number. And this is part of our boxing in strategy. We have 709 more tests pending, and they'll be coming in tomorrow. So there'll be some more. Right now we're running about a 13% positivity rate up in Buchanan. And then anybody hasn't been tested, we're at about 2,400 tests of 2,800 employees. We'll be testing them on Monday and Tuesday in the Northwest Health Services parking lot. So really appreciate you asking that question, because that's why you see that bump. As you know, we've trended down now for several days around 160, 120. And that's very consistent with our what's called our R0. Our doubling time is now 23, 24 days. So that curve is very much going down. Yes,
sorry.
No.
And a follow-up. Do you fear that the community sampling events like this one in the Buchanan County will show infections that you thought were worse than you thought?
Well, I think what you're going to see with our testing is you're going to see more tests, but more people are going to be asymptomatic. We have a tranche. We did 4,000 tests this week looking at community snapshots, Third Ward of Kansas City, down in the Boot Hill where we hadn't done some testing. So, for instance, by tomorrow we'll have 4,000 more tests, but you got to remember those are largely asymptomatic. So when you factor those in, if you compare those to tests from 3 weeks ago, which were mostly people who were symptomatic, it's really comparing apples and oranges. So try to keep the situational awareness or context in mind. And I think the best advice I can always give people is the governor's, which is don't look at a single day. Look at trend lines.
Definitely. And then what other community sampling events are taking place right now? And do you know any of the results of them right now?
Well, we have 4 community sampling. Now, there's a difference between the boxed-in strategy, which we've done in 1 prison, in 1 nursing home, and up in Buchanan County. In the community snapshots, we've done 8. I can tell you, for instance, we did it in Phelps County on Sunday, and I think we did 400 tests of just having people come in randomly, and all 400 were negative. And so tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I get the other 3,600 tests from the other 7 sites, and we'll certainly share those with you.
Sweet. And sorry, I have just one more question. We have some viewers asking if there is any recommendation on how long people with compromised immune systems, health issues, and like the older populations, should they stay home as the state is starting to reopen on Monday? Is there any guidance on when they may be able to get out?
No, I mean, I think that they can get out on Monday as long as they practice situational awareness. You know, the governor has said, my mother and others have been confined for 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And so, I think on Monday, if my mom wanted to be with her great-grandchild, that would be a reasonable thing to do. Now, I think that would be different than going to a crowded place or to get on a bus, for instance, where she's going to be right next to somebody. So I don't think we have any special stipulation on Monday for different groups other than, again, just to practice situational awareness. But I imagine there are a lot of, I think I have one behind me, a grandparent who really want to be with their grandchildren, and especially if they've been confined for 7 weeks. And so we certainly understand that. We just ask them to use social distancing and situational awareness. But thanks for thinking of them.
Dr. Williams, maybe a silly question, but a small business owner asked me, and I didn't know the answer. When they do begin to open up, and let's say they have a positive case, will the state be sending out teams for contact tracing, or would they be somehow responsible for that?
No, Jacqueline, it's not a silly question at all. Thank you for asking. No, if any business has one single case, we're not going to box in that business, obviously. But yeah, it's reportable by law, both serological testing and the nasal swab. And it's reported within 24 hours, and then we go out and do contact tracing even for that one case. So that's a good question. Thank you.
Governor Parson, a lot of stores are still facing shortages on disinfectant wipes and sprays. When we reopen on Monday, how do you propose that businesses follow CDC guidelines while we're still facing that shortage of cleaning supplies?
Well, I'm not for sure of that information you have. Maybe that's out there somewhere, but I haven't heard that from the retail or the grocery stores, or have not heard that officially yet, and we're in contact with them. So that may very well be. I would hope by now people are stocked up on that, has a few supplies on that to be able to handle that. Again, I think that's going to go back to the personal responsibility of the individual. I know for myself personally, at home and my kids, most of them by now have that hand sanitizer and those wipes as much as possible. But I'm not aware that there was a shortage of that. I know there's a lot of people stepped up for the hand sanitizer, that sanitizer stuff. So I hope that's out there. But if not, we just need to know about it and see if there's ways we maybe can get people connected to our manufacturing businesses in the state.
Governor, earlier this afternoon, a group of supporters turned in 350,000 signatures for Medicaid expansion, to put that on the ballot in November. They said that with the coronavirus, it's even more important to expand Medicaid coverage for low-income adults. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, Medicaid is going to expand whether you pass that or not, simply because of the regulatory environment we're on right now, because more people are going to go on Medicaid in the state of Missouri just because the unemployment numbers are so high. And without any restrictions right now, that number is going to grow. So Medicaid is going to grow whether you pass that or not right now, or do an expansion to it here in the state. As far as what it does at the ballot, I don't know. What that'll do when it gets there. That'll all be through the political arena. We'll see what happens if that's what's saying. But right now, the Medicaid rolls are going to expand in the state of Missouri just because there's more people that qualifies to be on it.
Right. This is talking about expanding eligibility. I think earlier this year, you had expressed opposition to that idea, said it could amount to a tax increase. I'm wondering if you still are opposed to that, or if for some reason the coronavirus has changed your thinking about that ballot measure.
Look, I don't think it's a time to be expanding anything in the state of Missouri right now. I'm telling you, we're going to have challenges going into 2021 for sure when it comes to just meeting the budget with what we currently have. But there's absolutely not going to be any extra money whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we're going to have to make some tough decisions in the near future just to even think about balancing a budget.
Yeah, Governor, as Missourians go into this last weekend of the stay-at-home order, what's your message to them?
I think just be cautious. Use common sense. Look, the one thing I want everybody to know, make sure you know what your risk is as an individual. If you're somebody that's elderly, you need to know that you're in a little bit higher risk category than somebody that's young. If you have underlying health issues, then you're definitely a little higher risk. So you just need to use a little common sense as we go out, as we meet that. But, people's got to get back out. We got to get the economy going, but we can do it safely, and I think people will gradually be coming back out. I just don't think there's going to be a rush for everybody to go out on Monday morning and hit every business in the state or anything. I do know, however, me and the First Lady will be out On Monday, we're going to be making a few stops around the state for the first time in probably 60 days that we'll be traveling some just to kind of go out and see what those businesses are doing and see what challenges they have and what they have been doing for the 60 days. So.
Governor, I'm relaying a question from another reporter here. This reporter is interested in elections and was wondering if you were open to the concept of a compromise, I guess, of expanding absentee voting to include no excuse absentee voting when paired with a requirement for a photo ID.
Well, first of all, no excuse. I would be open to that to a certain degree. You know, again, I'm not going to get in the ballot issue. The Secretary of State's working on that. I know, and some of my staff's been talking to him and the county clerks. So we got to figure out, especially for the June elections, what are we going to do to make sure people give them opportunity to go to vote and that they can do it safely. So I think we're all trying to work on that, and I understand we're under a strict timeline here to make decisions on that. But again, when it comes to no excuse absentees, you know, I'm probably much more lenient to that than I would be changing many other regulations of the voting law. Again, we've been at this for 50 days, and I think to start making decisions for next year's elections or for November's elections, I think we're too early to do that right now. All right, thanks everybody for being here today. Have a good weekend. Thank you.